The sheer scale of it, because it's the biggest earthquake in recorded Japanese history, and it's also the fourth biggest earthquake in the world. Every day, like seeing someone and realizing that they had survived, and you know, you would like be hugging them, and it was just really, really emotional.
What's up, Internet? Dyce, Quirk here, and today I have a special guest with me. Today we're going to be interviewing a gentleman who's been featured on a number of different panels that deals with the Tohoku 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami. He also has been awarded by the Japan-British Society for his contributions to Japan-British relations, and he's also been featured on Japanology Plus. So, that's super cool. I'm super excited to be here. And also, currently, he is the director at the Ishinomaki Research Information Exchange Center. So, it's my honor to introduce you guys to Richard Halberstadt. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So, Richard, if you don't mind, can you tell my audience, just so that they can get to know you a little bit better, how you originally came to be in Japan in the first place? Like, how did you come to be such a big part of Ishinomaki?
Okay, I don't know if I'm a big part of Ishinomaki, but okay, so when I was young, I was always really good at foreign languages at school. So I was really bad at science and maths and all that stuff. But I did French, I did German in school, and so when I went to university, I decided I wanted to study some kind of foreign language, but wanted to go for something that was, at the time, we're talking about the 1980s here, at the time was really kind of like a bit out there and weird. And so I went for Japanese, because at the time there weren't many people who could speak the language. And I thought I might be able to get a really good job, because at the time Japan was really economically a powerhouse then.
Oh, yes.
And so, yeah, so that started my connection with Japan, just studying the language. And then as a result of that, it just naturally sort of went into coming over to Japan to work, and basically I ended up living here. So that's how it happened.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, just because I know a couple of my audience members might be interested, what company did you come through, or what organization did you come through to start working in Japan?
Okay, well, I think you might know it quite well, but the JET program.
Oh, yes, JET.
Yes, which I think you've got some videos on it, haven't you?
Yes, I have a couple, if you want to check those out.
But yes, I was the second intake on the JET program, so we're talking about 1988. So that was my first experience living and working in Japan. And so that was 2 years. Working in North Japan and in the neighbouring prefecture to where we are now. And then at the time you could only do JET for 2 years, so I had to leave, and I went back to my home country of England, and was intending to find a job in England, but I just couldn't really forget Japan, and I had a really good time here, so I decided I want to work in Japan again. And put some feelers out, started looking for jobs, and eventually I found a job working in Ishinomaki Senshu University, which is here in the town of Ishinomaki where we are now. And so that's how I ended up here, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, like I mentioned at the beginning when I introduced you a little bit, a lot of people have tied you to the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami.
Yeah.
So, can you explain to my audience like how you're connected to that event?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm connected, it sort of just happened to me basically. But yeah, I mean, I just happened to be in Ishinomaki when it occurred. So I've been living in Ishinomaki for say 18 years when the earthquake happened. And I've got my handy map I can show you actually.
Oh, cool.
Because here is a map of North Japan. And I don't know if you can see Ishinomaki here. And then this red spot is the epicenter of the quake. So you can see we're really close to it.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, we were really badly damaged by the disaster. Not just the earthquake. If it had just been the earthquake, it wouldn't have been so bad. But the tsunami just caused catastrophic damage all over the city. And just because I happened to be living here, I was caught up in it. And everyone who experienced it, they all have their own kind of individual stories and drama of what happened to them at the time. And my personal experience, the really big thing that happened to me was not so much because of the tsunami, but because of the Fukushima nuclear reactor being damaged. When it was still in danger of exploding, I was contacted by the British Embassy, and they recommended that I should leave and go back to England. They said they'd take me back to England for free. I mean, all British nationals were being advised to leave, like in the area. It was kind of like surprising to hear that, because I was just like trying to get by day, living in the disaster area, because it was still like a war zone basically. But all my Japanese friends sort of said to me, oh, if you've got the chance you should really go back, because we'd be happier to know that you're safe in the UK. But it just felt really bad to like leave them in their kind of hour of need.
Yes.
Because they'd been so good to me for all this time that I'd been living in the city, and I just felt like I didn't want to leave them. So eventually I said to the embassy people, thanks so much, but I've decided to stay in Ishinomaki. And so that's what I did, and that sort of got out into the mass media. So I got these newspaper articles and TV reports on the foreigner who stayed, kind of thing. That sort of really got me going on the new chapter of my life, because I ended up leaving the university, and I started work in the Community Info Centre, which you mentioned at the beginning.
Yes.
Which went for about 7 years in total, I think. 7 years. And that just closed this year, because it was only meant to be a temporary place until where we are now was completed. And this place that everyone's looking at,
yes,
I can't see much of it, but is Kadonowaki Elementary School, which is an elementary school that was pretty badly damaged by the tsunami. And also badly burnt by a fire that was caused by the tsunami, which sounds a bit strange because the tsunami is water.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's a long story, and if you want to know more, then definitely come and visit sometime. But yeah, so this is where I work now. So basically, I give talks about the tsunami and about the disaster and this kind of thing. So that's my connection to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed on this map, it definitely shows a couple areas that were very badly affected by the earthquake and tsunami. Can you tell us, just because I'm not sure if my audience knows everything about the event, what areas were most affected, and maybe how they were affected just by the tsunami and earthquake?
So this is North Japan, which isn't very well known anyway. Most people know about Tokyo and Osaka and these kind of like really big cities. But this is the north of Japan, which is quite rural and unknown. And if you can see these three prefecture names, there's Iwate, Miyagi, where we are, and Fukushima, where the nuclear reactor is. So these three northern prefectures are the ones that were by far the worst damaged by the tsunami, basically. And just all of the coast, because Ishinomaki is right on the coast here as well. So all of the coastal areas are really badly flooded by the tsunami. And it was just such a huge disaster that the tsunami was so big that it really flooded quite deep inland as well. And for example, a town like Ishinomaki, where we are, not just the coastal areas, but we have a couple of rivers that run through the city. And so the tsunami can like flow up these rivers and then overflow into the land, sort of, from the riverbanks and everything.
Oh, wow.
So it really flooded quite deep inland as well. So it just caused an incredibly large amount of damage.
Yeah.
And among all that damage, then Ishinomaki, as I showed you with its proximity to the epicenter, then it was the most badly damaged city of all cities and towns in the entire disaster area. In terms of financial damage, in terms of lives lost, we lost just under 4,000 people.
Wow.
I mean, the disaster as a whole killed about 20,000 people in Japan.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's just, the scale is incredible. And so a fifth of those deaths basically are in Ishinomaki city.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really a very big event as far as the history of Ishinomaki goes.
Yeah, I think, at least from my perspective when I was in the States, we heard a lot about the Fukushima power plant, but we didn't hear much about the other parts of Japan that were so deeply affected. And so it's surprising to hear that many people in this area passed away, and also the damage that it did to this town. So I know there's a lot of earthquakes in Japan, and there's also a lot of tsunamis, or I'm not sure about tsunamis, but what made this particular event significantly different and distinct from other large earthquakes and tsunamis in Japan?
Yeah, Well, as you said, then earthquakes, we have them all the time. You can have lots of really small earthquakes that don't cause any damage, that are never covered in the news, that no one knows about. But yeah, this is basically earthquake heaven, this country, because there are like three plates that meet sort of underneath the country, and so it's really seismically active. And tsunami we don't get nearly so much. Most earthquakes don't cause tsunami. And the tsunami that do happen, they're not all big, they're not all damaging, they can just be like a bit of a high tide sometimes. But just the thing that made the 2011 one different was just I can't speak.
That's okay.
The sheer scale of it, because it's the biggest earthquake in recorded Japanese history. And it's also the fourth biggest earthquake in the world.
Wow, I didn't know that.
In terms of modern history, like from 1900. So yeah, it was just the scale of it. And you're looking at waves over 20 meters high in Ishinomaki.
20 meters.
And it's like, the thing is, many people I think have this image of like a movie image of a tsunami, which is like a big wave, a literal wave sort of coming, which is often in computer graphics they do that. But it's not that. It's just like, it's more like a relentless. Just the water keeps coming and coming and coming. It's
not just a big push.
Yeah,
it keeps on pushing.
Yeah, it just keeps on coming, and it's just so destructive. I mean, I didn't realize how destructive they could actually be until I experienced it this time in 2011, because the water just keeps coming in and it destroys lots of buildings and washes them all away. Buildings, cars, anything in its path, it just washes it all away. And because it's flooding in, then it's going to eventually, go back again. So it like destroys everything when it comes in, and then all that destroyed stuff gets pulled back, and anything that's been left behind, the stuff bashes into it from the other direction.
Oh my goodness.
And then that's just the first wave, but tsunami is not just one wave. It's like if you throw a stone into water, you get lots of ripples, don't you?
Yeah.
So you also get lots of waves for a tsunami. So the first wave comes and destroys everything, and then the second wave comes and does it again, and the third wave comes and does it again.
Oh my
so
goodness.
it's just it's just exponentially damaging compared to other things. If it had just been the earthquake, then things wouldn't have been nearly as bad.
Oh wow. Because of like how destructive that was, have you seen any residual effects from this earthquake and tsunami that maybe in Japan in general today, or maybe in the people of Japan?
Gosh, that's a really difficult question. Well, I mean, just the psychological impact of this happening to you, to people, has really changed a lot of people's lives, because so many people have lost family members and so on. So people are still trying to recover from that. In terms of a more kind of like, not so much the human side, but the sort of infrastructure side, then everything was destroyed. So there's been so much work done rebuilding, which has sort of altered the economy in a way, because of all the stuff that had to be brought in and all the building, the construction that had to be done. Now it's been like 11 years since the disaster, so things have they're looking much better. It's not completely back to normal, but it's looking pretty good, and it's just completely changed the whole landscape really. The city here looks completely different to how it used to before the tsunami.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
We noticed a little bit on Google Maps on the way here that it said some streets existed that no longer existed, and I guess they still have to update that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, there's just so much has changed. Yeah.
I also noticed, I watched a couple of your panels as well, and in one panel you brought up how often you talk about the stats and just this is how tall everything was, this is how much it cost to do this. But you also brought up the human element, just like how this affected people's interactions in the area. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, how can I put it? It's like, well, I mean, I think probably most people watching would have this image as well, but Japanese people have this image as being kind of like very sort of, they don't show their emotions and very kind of poker faced and have no sense of humor, which is not true, they have lots of humor. But like certainly after the disaster happened, then it was just so staggering. It was hard to like accept what had happened, and there was so much just naked raw emotion being shown. Just every day, like seeing someone and realizing that they had survived, and you would like be hugging them, and it was just really, really emotional, and just the sheer like death and destruction was really very kind of like impactful on everyone's psyche, basically. And so, for quite a long time, I was quite. I tended to get teary pretty easily, and cry really easily. And then lots of other things like what's it called? I've forgotten what it's called. Survivor guilt. Like, why did I survive and these people have to die? And feeling bad about being the one that survived. So, a lot of us had to go through that. And just many people having to cope with not just losing, family members, but if say, your granddad or your grandma dies, then in a sense they're kind of like older than you, and it feels like the natural order of things. But so many people, they lost their children, and it was just such a sort of tragic thing to happen, and people having to come to terms with that was just really, really hard. Yeah, I mean, certainly when I talked about my experience with the British Embassy, that was very emotional for me, and probably for about the first 5 years I couldn't really talk about it without crying at some point, and now I finally can, so I'll spare you my tears. But yeah, it's just everyone's psyche has been completely sort of affected by this. It's just everyone's gone through a lot of pain and grieving. Although, time has passed, so, it has, got better to a certain extent.
Some people have been able to heal up a little bit.
Yeah, some people have, but some people haven't. Some people are still, facing demons and so on, and can't really cope with the fact that, say, their children lost their lives, or most of their families were killed. But yeah, I mean, things are changing. I mean, and, things are getting better, I think.
Oh, that's definitely a lot to process. Like, that's a lot of emotion. And also thank you so much for talking about the human element there, because I feel like we hear a lot of the stats, but we don't always hear how it affected people. And
definitely.
Being somebody that's so close with so many people here in Japan, I know that relationships are so important. Also, if we can jump to just kind of the reconstruction portion of it, how do you feel that Ishinomaki and the surrounding areas have done with reconstruction, or how are they doing now in comparison to 11 years ago?
It's just the landscape has completely changed. Where we are now, you can't see it from where we are here, but this used to be completely built up. There were just buildings everywhere, and now the tsunami swept everything away and there's nothing left. And it was just like blank land. And it was decided that it would be dangerous to live there, so the whole area has kind of been converted into a kind of park area instead. The city has changed completely. And I've forgotten your question.
Oh, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I was just kind of wondering, how do you feel reconstruction has gone? Like, how far are they along? And
okay. So as I say, lots of things have changed completely, but we are getting pretty well along in terms of reconstruction, I think. But it's not finished, and there are lots of new problems that the reconstruction is causing. One of the big ones in Ishinomaki is the flood walls. Which they're building to protect against future tsunami, which are being built all along the coast and along the riverbanks and everything. And these kind of cause a bit of controversy, because not everyone is in favour of them being built, in the sense that you get this huge concrete wall which kind of blocks out your view of the ocean, the beautiful scenery and everything. So it's difficult to know whether it was correct to have actually built these things or not. I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. So you've got the city that wants to protect their citizens every way that they possibly can, and if they didn't do that, they'd probably get lots of complaints anyway, and lawsuits even. But then on the other hand, you've got to kind of find some way to live in harmony with nature, and so living in Japan, in a sense, is having to accept the fact that we do get these earthquakes and tsunamis, and you have to cope with them. So, I mean, there's a school of thought that the flood walls are maybe not necessary, but people have to be aware of the dangers of tsunami and make sure that they evacuate to high ground when there are earthquakes and so on, and take responsibility for their own safety. So yeah, it's a difficult problem with no easy solution. But yeah, I mean, so the reconstruction is ongoing. It's going quite well, but there are various problems that need to be sorted out as well.
Oh yeah, and that's an issue that I would have never even thought of because I don't live directly in Ishinomaki. Just the different constructions or different things constructed to help protect the citizens and how that affects the landscape.
Yes.
And we've only been here for about 8 months, but we definitely can see there's a large tie with nature in Japan, so that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so how can people in other countries, like I'm from America, I know that you originally were born in the UK, how can people outside of Japan continue to help and support the reconstruction and rebuilding of Ishinomaki and just this entire part of Tohoku Japan in general?
Yeah, well, the obvious thing is please come and visit us.
Oh yes,
come and see us. I mean, it's in the age of COVID, it's difficult to like travel internationally sometimes, but I'm sure things are going to calm down at some point. And before, like just after the disaster, then there was lots of volunteer work that was available for people to do to help out. But now, you know, that's not there anymore because it's all been completed basically. But the really big thing that people can do is to actually come and see for themselves how we're doing, learn about the tsunami and what it did, and basically be a part of the local economy and spend money here and get the economy moving around. Because, you know, we're still not really doing well economically. There are various problems. So the more money that gets spent here, the happier we are. Surprise, surprise. So you know, the obvious thing is to actually come and visit. And it's not. I mean, you know, we are reasonably well developed. There are hotels. There's good food. There's, you know, good things to do here. So that's the main thing. If you're like back in your home country and want to do something, then try and like search on the internet for businesses that are here, and maybe, you know, buy some stuff online. Because I mean, you know, that anything that sort of gets the economy going is a real help. So I would say, number one, please come here and visit. Number two, maybe find some stuff and buy it online from us.
Okay, that's awesome. Actually, I'll make sure that I include some links in the description if I can find some local businesses to buy from, just so that you guys can check that out. In addition to that, just so that my audience, if they ever do come to Ishinomaki, what's a couple of your osusume or recommendations for different restaurants or things to check out while they're here?
Okay, well, as far as food goes, because we're a coastal town and our main industry is fishing, then seafood here is really good. So we have this thing, it's called kaisen don.
Kaisen don?
Yes, kaisen don. Kaisen means like seafood, and don is donburi, a bowl.
Oh, okay.
So it's like just, I have to make this sound good, don't I? Soft, white, fluffy rice, topped with lots and lots of sashimi, raw fish.
I'm already sold.
Okay, right, okay. So, I mean, there's so many kinds of really good fish available here. And maybe not everyone really wants to eat it raw. I mean, you know, it's an acquired taste for some people. But there's plenty of cooked stuff that is also really good. Like, for example, my recommendation for cooked stuff would be, say, anago, which is conger eel. It's a kind of eel, which some people, if you've never had eel before, then you'd be surprised because it has this image as kind of like a slimy snake type thing. But when you like cut it up and cook it, it's really tasty. It's just like white fish, and it's really soft and fluffy. And they like paint this sort of sweet soy sauce sort of
like a glaze.
Marinade, like a glaze on it, and then barbecue it, and it's just really tasty. So that's really delicious. And if you feel adventurous, maybe especially in summer, you could try the hoya, which is sea squirt. Which maybe you've never even seen before. You can check it on the internet, but it's like its nickname is sea pineapple because it's orange and it's like a it's shaped like a pineapple with lots of like knobby, spiny bits sticking out of it, and it looks a bit like one of those eggs from the Alien movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything is going to jump out of it, but it's an acquired taste, shall we say? But if you feel adventurous, then it's definitely worth a try.
Well, maybe after this interview, we'll head to a place and try to find some Hoya. If you can recommend a place after, we'll check that out.
Sure, yeah. Okay, but please don't complain if you don't like it, okay?
That's okay.
So, yeah, I take no responsibility.
Like you said, it's an adventure, so.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with my audience about either the disaster, the recovery, or yourself, or just anything at all?
Gosh, anything. I think I pretty much said it all. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say if you have the chance, come to Japan. It's such a great and interesting place to visit. It doesn't have to be here in Ishinomaki, it can be anywhere. But they're so welcoming to people, and it's, as far as the scale of things go in the world, it's a pretty safe country to be in. Maybe you have trouble with the language and you can't read the Japanese and everything, but there's just so many adventures to be had here. It's beautiful, and there's so much good food. Like I talked about seafood, but there are all kinds of food. Wherever you go, you can get Chinese, you can get Italian, you can get anything. So it's just a great place. I mean, it's why I made my home here, because I've just really taken with the country.
Yeah.
So definitely, please come is what I would say.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Mr. Halberstadt. Thank you so much. Right at the end. But yeah, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. And for anybody that's watching, I just want to let you know that we'll have links so that you can check out this facility as well as a couple of those local businesses. Just a warning. The links for the website for this facility are completely in Japanese. So if your phone has like a translation function, that could be very helpful. But if you're wanting to practice some Japanese too, then I definitely recommend checking it out. And also, if you guys wanted to check out other videos related to Richard, I'm going to put a link to his Japanology Plus profile, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll both see you guys in the next video.